fail, the more likely it's going to be moving into explosion or exasperation, and therefore you need to be more conscious of moving us to the right side of those internal and external motivations. So this is to help you grab hold of all of this to be done to make your sports ministry, your sports outreach, the most attractive and the most wanting to be participated in by those people who are far from Jesus and far from the church. Because if you can't create a good, positive environment because you don't understand competition at its root, you're not going to be able to really reach those people. Now, we're going to move in the future sessions in the direction of looking at this from a little bit of a historical view. All of our courses in the AGON, we take about 10 or 20% of a review, and we take about a 10 or 20% preview of what the other course, the next course is going to be, and we fit them into the current course. And so the next section that we're going to go into is going to help you understand a little bit of the historical view of sport, competition, religion, faith, and the integration of all those things. So I hope you look forward to that. Thank you for being with me, your host and professor for this course on the theology of sport and competition. So I'm Dr. Greg Linville. Thank you for joining us. Look forward to being with you next time. Okay, we're going to move to the next one here. And let me pull it up. This one will be the fourth one, and it will be on the ancient Greek, sport and religion, the Greco worldview. All right, here we go. Hello and welcome back to this fourth video in our sessions for the AGON Institute of Sports Ministry, brought to you by CSRM and Uncharted Waters. And in specific, this specific set of videos being prepared for our academic partner, Barclay College. I'm your host and professor for the course, Dr. Greg Linville. And so far we have looked at a few things that are giving us foundations to help us determine theological truths, and then out of that, ministry models. We're going to take a quick look back in the next couple videos of the ancient world. This will be a little bit of a review of some of our models of sports ministry, the ancient world models. But it's going to come into relevance for how we think theologically about sport and competition, because the integration of sport and faith is not unique or new to Christianity. It's actually been around for millennia, thousands and thousands of years. Those of you that are taking this for class credit towards your master's degree or any degree, you're going to have to take exam quality notes. So make sure you've got that in front of you, whether it's in a digital copy or hard copy, and make sure you're filling in the blanks, make sure you're adding your notes. These should be of, again, exam quality. If you're taking it for certification or for your own benefit, you need to take no notes to turn in. You just need to record that you've actually watched the video. So let's jump into this now. Your first slide, you'll see the historical context of Greece, the Greco-Roman worldview. And you see a couple of pictures there at the site of Isthmia. Isthmia is right outside of ancient Corinth. This was where the center of the athletic world in the Greco-Roman day was focused. I live in the city where American football is known to be the sport, Canton, Ohio. The Pro Football Hall of Fame resides here. And all of football at some point comes here to our city. That was what Isthmia was like for the Greco-Roman worldview, for the Olympic of those ancient games. And so you see here the pictures, the background picture being of the Olympic site that had its athletic arenas, as well as the athletic arenas, as well as the religious temples. And then you see in the foreground the pictures of the Isthmian site, where the runners, you can actually see in the one picture that I'm in the diakos, and I'm there and pulling the strings that the lane markers would drop and the runners would start. This was their version of electronic timing and getting everybody off to the same start. But what you'll see on the left-hand side of the picture is where the temple of Poseidon was, and just to the right of it, maybe 100 yards at best, was where the arena was, where these runners would run. And in the Greco-Roman world, but particularly the ancient Greek world, there was no dualism, faith over here and sport over there. They were integrated, very much integrated. And the temple and arena were built together. This is similar in other cultures that we've seen, in the Mayan culture in South America, in the Chinese culture in Asia. And it combined a certain religiosity to it, but there was also a humanistic sportsmanship part that came out in it as well. Compared more, and we'll get into this a little bit later, with the hedonistic Roman gamesmanship. Okay, if you go to your second slide, you'll begin now to see the pictures of ancient Olympia that are now in ruins. And you'll see two temples. The one on the upper left-hand corner you'll see is the temple of Zeus, the great god in the pantheon of Greek gods. Pan meaning all, theon meaning gods, all of the gods of ancient Greek culture. Zeus was the head guy. And then on the right side, the lower right side, you'll see the temple to Hera, his long-suffering wife, because of his infidelities. And both of these were right at the Olympic village, and the Olympics were played and competed in right outside of these temples. And in fact, the torch for the modern Olympic Games is still lit here outside of the temple to Hera. The old myths, the old Greek myths, taught that the gods fought. They competed with one another. And so it was a natural progression that humans should compete in these ways. And in the more civilized days and times, the games were played under the patronage of the deity. You see, the athletes that competed received the protection of the deity to come. Even if they were from another city-state, they could come under the protection. They competed in the honor of those mythological gods. And they would go to those temples at these sites, and they would bow down and pour out their offerings, and they would pray to the god's image. And they vowed before the gods that they would compete fairly. Now, that wasn't always the case, but they vowed that. And the games were always, the athletic competitions were always held in the same vicinity, most often within the very sight and sound of the sanctuaries. The sacrifices were offered. They were offered by the city-states as well as the individual competitors themselves. They would be drink offerings of wine, oil. They would be grain offerings. They would be poured out, and it was like a sacrifice to the gods saying, give me your blessing in my athletic endeavors. The central object in Olympia was the great altar of Zeus, which you see here on the lower right-hand side. And the Olympic Temple of Zeus was built in 450 BC. The victors would bring their offerings, as I said, and then return their trophies. So again, you're getting the pictures of this intersecting of the two. The picture on the right is called the mappa in his hand. This would be like the towel or the napkin that they would wipe their face after they've eaten, and nobody would start the game until this ruler would throw this down, and now the games could be entered into. And these magistrates would lead the parades from the center of the city to the holy altar in the temple, and they would have the sacrifices, and they would say their prayers. And they were followed in these parades by the statues of the gods, the priests, the athletes, and even the victims